Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we have for Wild Hearts. This is the new Monster Hunter type game that's being published by EA and developed by Omega Force and Koei Tecmo, which is set to release on February 17th on current gen consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC as well. And today I wanted to go over a brand new developer interview where we simply got a bunch of brand new details directly from the developers. This was posted originally on IGN. So huge shout out to them, link in the description below, for essentially a rather long extensive piece where they discuss with the developers the influences, if it has anything to do with Toukiden, how does it actually compare with Fortnite of all things, which I found that to be a rather weird question, and a couple of other things, how it basically differentiates itself from other games in the genre, which interestingly enough, they never actually mentioned Monster Hunter, which I found fascinating. But I actually want to begin this video with discussing the last 3 questions that they were asked, because ultimately the overwhelming bulk of the negativity that I've seen being kind of like tossed into this game is the fact that it's being published by EA. People are actually assuming that EA are the ones making the decisions for it. And based on the developers' very own wording, that does not seem to be the case. It seems like they are suggesting them as to what to do, but not necessarily making the decisions altogether. So I want to start with the very last 3 questions in this developer interview, and we can go from there. One of the questions reads, Koei Tecmo self-publishes most of its studio's work. Why did EA become involved in this project? The developer's response is, we wanted to create a hunting game that would be enjoyed by players around the world. EA is not only very strong in international publishing, but they have contributed a great deal to Wild Hearts in their wealth of experience, and they are truly committed to ensuring that our game reaches a global audience. Now, the fact that they have a wealth of experience can be viewed in both sides, whether it is positive and or negative, so I certainly can see how some people can take away that EA's involvement in this game is not a good thing. The second EA related question is, Wild Hearts was only announced this month, yet it's out in February. How long has the team been working in Wild Hearts, and why was it kept secret for so long? The response is, if we start counting from the conception of planning stages, we have been working on Wild Hearts for 4 years. We have wanted to tell players about this game for a very long time, but we thought that with the shorter time between the announcement and release, the less time players would have to wait and the more interested they would be in the game. And this is an easy thing that a lot of developers and publishers have learned, basically copying what Nintendo does. Nintendo loves to announce games usually as they're about to release. Of course, there are some outliers, Breath of the Wild, Metroid Prime 4, stuff like that. But for the most part, they tend to hit release dates, which tend to be roughly about 6 months to a year before the game is set to release. The last related question when it comes to EA is this a conscious attempt to appeal to a more mainstream Western audience? The response is, we're very conscious that the fact that we want more people in the West to play our games, and we have received a lot of feedback from EA from Western perspective on many details, which helps us know where to adjust the game. However, in terms of game basic design, we are not overly conscious on focusing just on Western audiences and Japanese developers. We try to create something that we think is fun. EA is of the same opinion and really respects our creativity. So I think that kind of embolds the point that I'm trying to make with this game is that, like, yes, it's being published by EA. Yes, if it does end up having some weird microtransactions post-launch, those are all going to be on EA's, buckets. Those are all going to be things we can attribute to EA being involved in it. But ultimately, it seems like all the development decisions are being made by Omega Force and Koei Tecmo, so you don't necessarily need to be too overtly concerned that the game is being built around like gacha mechanics or like season passes or stuff like that. They might eventually come, and that might be a problem. We don't have details of that just yet, but it seems like the base gameplay experience is gonna be a good one. In another one of the questions they asked, Omega Force is best known for its Musou Warriors games, but it looks like this is a big departure from that approach. What was the spark of the idea for Wild Hearts? Kotaro Hirata actually says, this project began as an attempt to create Japanese-style hunting game that new generation players can play around the world that could have fun with. It was informed by our experience developing hunting games, specifically the Toukiden series. Our goals of creating this Japanese-style hunting game for a new generation remain consistent from start to finish, but making this core idea is a reality, not something that happens overnight. One challenge we faced was creating something unique with a universal appeal that would be accepted by players around the world. To achieve this, we went through several prototypes and trial and error for a very long period of time. The idea was formed at the core where project were the kimono, a fusion of nature and animals, and the karakuri, a craft element that was added specifically to suit the hunting elements to this game. We believe that Wild Hearts is born out of these core ideas and a hunting game that offers a new and innovative experience. So this is essentially where they talk about the kimono. These will be the monsters themselves. They keep calling it a beast hunting game, which is I found hilarious. And also they speak about the karakuri, which essentially is the crafting mechanic. And another one of the questions that we're going to touch upon in a little bit, they also go into more in depth about that as well, essentially trying to break down what it actually is. And one of the questions they ask, as you mentioned, this shares similarities with your previous work in Toukiden series. Why did it feel like it needed to be a new IP rather than Toukiden sequel? Takuto Edagawa says that they wanted for Wild Hearts to appeal to a more global audience than the Toukiden series. Certainly as a Japanese-style hunting game, Wild Hearts has some things in common with Toukiden. However, the original aspects of Wild Hearts, such as that you're hunting, the battle systems, the world setting, the visual presentation, are very different from Toukiden. That's a lot of fluff to basically say we wanted to appeal to different people, and the name Toukiden associates with kind of like an old series that was not necessarily all that popular. So we just wanted to change it all together and basically have a brand new fresh start. A brand new IP is basically a brand new start. So not that much of a surprise, but you know, at the very least they're admitting it. Moving on to the next question, they begin to talk about the building and crafting system. They ask, can you explain the building system that was shown in the trailer? Are you solely creating hunting tools, or can you build structures like you can in Fortnite? The response is, players hunt using the type of crafting called the karakuri, an ancient technology that allows you for creation of extremely flexible and creating hunting grounds to take on the powerful beast. The karakuri can range from types that can be built instantly during battles to some that can be combined to create new karakuri, and also types that are used to build hunting grounds by utilizing many different materials. Karakuri expand the freedom and possibility of hunting combat and exploration in this game, so it differs from the direction of crafting in Fortnite, which allows for creation of huge structures. I don't necessarily know why people instantly assume crafting therefore Fortnite. It's the same thing whenever you have like some sort of indie game with like animal villagers, people instantly say Animal Crossing. I think there was like Toko Life or some game just recently came out, and like all the reviews just kept mentioning like Animal Crossing, and it's like, I mean, yeah, animal villagers, but it's like they could probably try to do their own thing. It's not that there's no crime involved if they're trying to make their very own thing. So if they have crafting, you know, and they're just like instantly alluding it to Fortnite, I think you're kind of doing the game a little bit of a disservice here. Now, one of the questions reads, one thing that's less clear from the trailer is the combat system, which will have a looser manner, more free-flowing combat Musou games, or is this closer to the heaviness and necessary precision of Monster Hunter? So they do actually specifically ask a question of Monster Hunter. The response is, Wild Hearts features a combat system that combines a variety of highly flexible actions and deep combat against the kimono. Players can not only perform dashing, jumping, grappling, sliding, and other actions required in today's action games, but they can further enhance the performance of their actions by making full use of the karakuri system. On the other hand, kimono, which are full fusions of nature and animals, can hunt players down in a wide variety of attacks like real animals can perform. In Wild Hearts, players will experience a new kind of combat that is different from the Warrior series or hunting titles you've seen before. Hunting titles, I wonder what they mean by that. And ultimately, we're just gonna have to see it. You know, they can say that all day. There is going to be some sort of like gameplay, extended gameplay presentation on October 5th. So certainly I want to get this video out before then, because I also want to go over that gameplay presentation, see what they actually showcase. I mentioned in my previous video that they only revealed 3 weapons and 6 monsters so far. So, you know, we haven't seen a lot about this game. And when it comes to the karakuri, I believe 5 different like trap contraptions that you can make have been shown. So ultimately, we haven't seen a lot of this game yet. So, you know, people need to stop being so negative about it, at the very least for now. One of the questions asked regarding open world mechanics, and the response basically is that Wild Hearts uses a zone-based system, which we believe has a significant advantage in a hunting game in which players repeatedly take hunts. Each separated zone is a large area, and players can reach almost any point in the zone using the karakuri. So it's possible to enjoy it like an open world game which you actively explore in the world. And I don't know, again, another fascination people have with open world games, most of them are kind of mediocre. They're not a lot of fun. So having segmented areas and maps, kind of makes sense. The way Rise does it, the way Sunbreak has done it, the way World did it, this works perfectly. Give me one big area, one specific map. There's another map with a completely different layout. It has nothing to do with it. I have no issues with that whatsoever. They actually asked them regarding 3-player co-ops instead of actually being 4 players, and the response is, originally we considered having 4 players for cooperative play. However, during development, we realized that due to the power of the Karakuri, 3-player combat provides the best balance to maintain for a sense of tension and cooperating in combat. We also took into consideration the fact that it's easier to gather together 3 players. I don't agree with that response at all. Having 3 players to 4 really doesn't necessarily make that much of a difference. More people are already kind of used to 4-team parties. Like, that's kind of been a staple. I think Apex, whatever, that shooting game, is the only one that kind of has 3. Most other games have 4. I mean, even Splatoon has 4. And that's a, really weird game for relatively online gameplay. So, most games have 4. I don't necessarily why they went with 3. And the response is, well, basically our traps, mechanics were too powerful. We'll just nerf them, make them not as efficient. It's not that big of a deal. The last question that I wanted to go over is, if this is Omega Force first game that felt impossible to make like in the last gen consoles, what has taught you about creating new games for new gens that you'll take into future projects? The response is, we believe that the fantastic and unique worldview inspired by feudal Japan is one of the key aspects in Wild Hearts. In order to make the world more compelling, we felt that it was necessary to maximize the performance of their current platforms. Specifically, we improved the atmosphere by incorporating more accurate and direct light and increased density by placing higher resolution fields, kimono, and objects in the game. With Wild Hearts, we embrace the challenge of using new technology. We hope that players will use the Karakuri to freely move around the colorful and expansive world that we have created. So basically all they're saying is that, hey, new current consoles are kind of powerful and we use their tools to full advantage. So that's all well and good. I still don't necessarily know if leaving out the Nintendo Switch when it comes to a monster or beast hunting game is such a good idea, seeing how, of course, the Switch is easily the best-selling console right now, and it's probably going to continue to be for the next few years. So, I don't necessarily know how that's going to work out at the end of the day, especially if you have players not necessarily embracing this title because of the aforementioned EA collaboration or assistance that they're getting with the publishing. So ultimately, I'm not necessarily sure how it's going to help them to have a game appearing on Xbox, which Xbox games don't sell well in Japan at all, certainly not in Asia. Europe, not necessarily so much. PC players are very distinct about what it is that they actually want. So if the PC port is not necessarily great, they're probably just going to ignore it altogether. And then you have PlayStation fans, which if it's not basically a zombie, sad teenager game, they're not necessarily interested in buying it. So we're just going to have to wait and see ultimately where this game falls, if it falls through the cracks, or if they actually develop it and it looks right and it plays well, people are willing to give it a chance. We're just going to have to wait and see on all of that. But if they provide us with any more developer interviews or the upcoming gameplay that we're expecting, I'm certainly going to be talking about that as well. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.